All right, I'm taking a moment to pull in the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, and Taurians. They're all here. The Arcturians, the Pleiadians, and Taurians, the Nusians. They're all here. They're on our team. It's almost like we're on the baseball field and they're in the stands. And, they're, yay, good job, So that feels good to know that we are not alone. We really are not alone. So what do we do now? Listen. What we do now is that we listen to our own self. And by listening to our own self, what we mean is that you, hopefully, if possible, pick a certain time at a certain place. Because if you pick the certain time at that certain place, then you build an energy field. And so after you've done your meditations in that certain place and that certain time, 5, 6 times, people will come into your room and say, oh, can I sit here? This feels really good. Can I sit in this place? And that's exactly where you're meditating. Then you start, oh, yeah, that's right. It's really an energy field that we as humans have forgotten that most of the time we use maybe 10% of our huge big brains. And so what do we do with that other percentage, with all the rest of that brain? Well, I, Sue Lie, would have to say is that I talk to the galactics. That's what I usually end up doing. The galactics and other higher beings, like, Jesus, I, had some words with Jesus and other spiritual beings. In other words, we are not alone. We have higher dimensional beings that are with us when all we have to do is just say the name and they're right there. They are right there. And okay, we're here now. What would you like to ask?
Yes, why don't we continue this conversation about our energy fields? So my next question to the Pleiadians and the Arcturians would be, as Gaia is changing and transmuting, what happens to these energy fields that we have been creating and grounding? What happens to those as a result of Gaia coming into her 5th dimensional form?
Well, there are places on Gaia where the humans have been sending love and light. And Gaia is like, yes, I'm ready. I can make this transmutation. But there are also places on Earth in which the humans have not really been serving Gaia well. And they have been doing things that actually harm Gaia. And so when Gaia gets to that place, she goes, oh, my poor humans, why would they want to do this to their own mother? Why are they so lost? Why are they so messy? Why don't they realize who they really are? So what do you think the reason for that is?
I think we're seeing that with our most recent worldwide lockdown in these past couple of months, and how those energy fields that are not so beneficial for Gaia's transmutation, her ascension, those energetic points are being cleared because of the people being inside of their homes. If we think about it, all of the super heavily populated areas that have been sources of the drama, the negativity, just the noise, just the density, all of that has all of a sudden, after being built up for how many years, everyone just went inside. And now those energetic points are being able to have the chance to reset, and Gaia is helping to do that, and the galactics are helping that to happen. So my next question would be for our galactic family here. What is, maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the work that you are all doing with us as we are going within and as we are transmuting along with the planet.
Well, in order for people to assist the planet to transmute, they have to remember how to transmute themselves. And isn't it interesting that we all have to go to your room, go to your room. We're in trouble. The humans are in trouble. You know, finally they got caught. It's kind of like a kid that got away with staying out too late, got away with not doing what they said they were going to do. And then one day, it all came down at once. And it's like, oh, okay. Did I sign up for this? Well, if you're here in this now, I guess so. What do you think?
Yes, and how everything is not coincidental. And I love, this is something that you, the Arcturians, have talked about before, that we didn't come here to make the choice. We came here because we decided that we were going to answer Gaia's call for assistance, because we are multidimensional beings. We are not just third-dimensional humans. We are third-dimensional humans, but it's not the only component to our beings. It's like 1%. So maybe you can talk about how the 99% of who we are and the 1% of who we are, our human selves, are coming together, are merging back into one, because they were never separate.
Yes, because a lot of this has to do with one's brain. And some people, especially people that are lost and not really feeling good about themselves and haven't found their creativity yet and don't know where they're going, you know, these people just use like maybe 10-15% of their brain, and the rest of the brain is just sitting there with the lights off. It's a beautiful house, but all the lights are out. And so you're in this house and there's all these beautiful rooms, but you can't see anything because it's night now and it's dark, and it is night now because the darkest night is just before dawn. I think we could say darkest night right about now. What do you think? But the good thing about the darkest night is that that's when we get to wake up from. Because when we go into the darkest night, we stop with the denial. Stop with the denial. Oh, it's okay. This will just be fine. No, this particular leader, he's, probably pretty good. Well, this solution might work. Okay, so kind of in and out and not really dedicated. And this is a job for Superman. And we are super people. We are super. There's supermen and super women and super seniors and super children. But they didn't turn the light on yet, so they don't know. So here's a question for you, Danny. How do they turn the light on in their brain and their heart?
My answer to that would be that it starts with the heart, because that's like the generator. That's where the electricity comes in on. And being able to use the heart as a battery for the light within our consciousness, within our minds, our brains, that's where it starts. It starts with that unconditional love, that knowingness that we are never alone. And tapping into that is what helps us to turn on the lights and see that we have a cape hanging on the side of the door, and we just have to put it on to be those super beings that you were talking about.
Yes. And we can also, when we put on that cape and we pretend that we're Superman, then you kind of remember that. I remember when I was a little kid, I liked to pretend I was Superman. And then I remember when I was this other age and I did this other thing that I didn't think I could possibly do, but I did it. And then you start going through your life and realizing that, wow, I did this and I did that, and I didn't think that I was able to do that. But when I just let go and did it, it was actually quite easy.
Yes. Letting go and recognizing the ease. And this is something that we have touched on in a couple other videos, but being versus trying to be are two very different things.
And really learning to trust ourselves. Learning that, like when the Arcturians came in and started telling me things, luckily I'd already had Jesus that came in and told me things. So it was like, okay, I could do this. This is, I mean, we all know who Jesus is, but what's an Arcturian? I never heard of such a thing. What's an Arcturian? Okay. And then the Arcturians started telling me things. And if I did what they told me to do, like amazing things happened. And so I thought, okay, obviously this is real, because I didn't even think that I could think of these things, much less do these things. So then I began to believe. And that belief is always two-sided. Believe in what is new to your awareness, and believe in yourself that doesn't mean that you're crazy. That just means that you have expanded your ability of perceptions.
Yes, we've expanded our ability of our perceptions. And we most typically have those perceptions or focus on survival, on our 3D lives. But we're opening up to not just having our experience be that of just a human, because we're able to trust ourselves more. So my follow-up question to that, to the Pleiadians and Arcturians, would be, building trust is such a different process for everyone. So what would you recommend that people do, or maybe perhaps think about, because a lot of what we're talking about has to do with mental energy? Maybe you could give us an exercise that we could use to hold more love and release fear from our minds.
Hold the love and release the fear. Hold the love and release the fear. And think of that almost as a mantra. I hold the love and release the fear. I hold the love and release the fear. And a mantra is something that you say again and again. And because you say it again and again, it covers up the what love, but there's a good reason for the fear. And, I don't want to do that. I'm busy. I got to do this instead, But if you just let it, hold the love, release the fear, hold the love, release the fear, hold the love. You can do that while you're climbing up a mountain. You can do that while you're playing a tennis game. You can do that while you're, mowing your lawn. Just hold the love, release the fear, hold the love, release the fear. And what that does is that overrides the part of the brain that says, oh, well, I don't know about this. This is a little scary. I don't know how I feel about this. Is it safe to do this? I'm worried about that. And so all of that negative talk, hold the love, release the fear, hold the love, release the fear. And so it's like, okay, so what happens when we hold the love and release the fear? I'll give that one to you.
What happens is that our perceptual field changes, and that is how it begins. Because our perceptual field, again, going back to that survival, that idea of I have to live, that is based oftentimes on fear, and that's not a quote-unquote bad thing or good thing. It is just how it is. That's the nature of this kind of game. Versus leading from love and being able to hold that versus, oh, I had a loving experience, I'm going to hold it for while it lasts, and then once it's done, and then I go back to my fear living life. That's not the case. When we can have a life that has a core of love versus a core of fear, it builds something completely different. But we have to believe that we're capable of restructuring our lives in the way that we've been living for however long. Change is possible, but it can't happen if you don't change your mind.
And that, what you just said, a core of love. So if the core of one's being is love, well, think about that inner power and that inner confidence. And if the core that's inside of you is love, then I guess you have to love you because it's the core of you inside of you. And one of the most difficult things to love is our own self. That's a difficult part for humanity. That somehow, if you love yourself, that's conceited, or if you love yourself, who do you think you are? Well, whoever you think you are is who you are, because you're going to follow your thoughts. And if your thoughts are, I love me, I love what I'm doing. I might mess it up. It might take me a long time. I'm going to have to try it again and again. But I'm not going to give up, because inside of me, I know I love me. I know I'm a good person. And I know that what I do is what I'm meant to do. And just think if people gave themselves that message. And there's also physical ways to do that. Like if you do yoga, for example, you can be a mess. But after you've done yoga for, 20 minutes, it's like, you're not a mess anymore. So sometimes we have to go through the body right first. Sometimes some people, runners, they need to I got to take a run, And I wish I could still go horseback riding, because the most wonderful thing is to go riding on a horse. Because the horses are the most beautiful beings. They're so loving and sweet. I remember one time the poor horse got frightened, and he reared up because he was frightened, and I fell off. Did the horse go running back? No. The horse stood right there and put his big face right next to my little face. And I never forgot that. What a wonderful creature. Oh, and by the way, they say if the Arcturians were to take a race, take a body, a human body, or take an earthly body, they would take the body of a horse. Because horses are very strong, they're very loving, they take care of themselves, they take care of their loved ones, and they're very loyal to the people that take care of them. Just
wow.
like Arcturians. Yeah.
Wow. Goodness. Thank you for that. That was beautiful and very powerful too. The horses, that energy of being bold and strong, and yet also sensitive and empathetic. I would love to ask now about dreams, because as we start to move into that fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional reality, a lot of people are noticing that their dreams are starting to change, or that their experiences in their meditations or just their daily living, it's starting to expand. The veil is starting to get thinner. So perhaps you could talk a little bit more about what's going on in that realm.
Well, one of the things is that we're beginning to remember. We're beginning to remember this other reality. There's this other reality where we're on a starship. that's the one that I usually go to. We're on a starship, and there are starships, and I've seen a couple. I've seen starships 3 times, and very often you'll look at a cloud and you'll think, "Oh, that looks like a starship," but really, it's a starship that has cloaked itself to look like a cloud. And so, if you are blessed with seeing a big cloud that looks like a starship, you know, say, "Take me with you, take me with you." I want to visit, I want to go on that starship. And we can do that in our imagination. And again, imagination is 5th-dimensional thought. And if we allow ourselves to go into that 5th-dimensional thought, to think about being on a starship, remembering being on a starship, maybe remember meeting a certain ascended master that you have. Wow, I've always really felt something special about this particular ascended master. And then you have a dream or you have a meditation in which you actually meet them and you actually feel them. And more of those things are happening because people are beginning to expand their brain power, like we said at the beginning. But because there is so many unique situations that have not been experienced before, ever, that we can ever look in any history book to find out that anything like this has ever happened. So suddenly we've got to like go into that brain and say, okay, we're going for 50% now. Let's see if we got 50% of our brain activated here. And the main thing that I found is that when I meditate and do that and open up more of the brain power, is that I have no fear. I just have no fear. Do you want to talk about no fear, Danny? Because I don't think you're a guy that has much fear. What is your secret of not having a lot of fear? Because people, they need those secrets. Fear is no good. Fear is not helpful. There's times if you're walking through the woods and a big thing goes, rawr, okay, then you can have fear and run the opposite way. But right now, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about daily life.
Something that helped me the most with overcoming my fear was understanding the core of that fear. And when I first started to open up and connect, and I would get in my space, and I wouldn't ask with a whole lot of confidence of, okay, I'm ready to open myself up to something new, to an unknown, because I was so afraid of the unknown. And I would find that I would start to just get panicky or a little fearful about, what am I going to experience? Am I going to experience anything? Am I ready enough? Am I good enough? And it just took a moment for me to just be like, wait a minute, I'm sitting crisscrossed in my room with the lights off. It's quiet in my whole house. What am I afraid of? What is there? There's nothing in my environment that I need to be fearful of. So I always started it off by just getting present and by, okay, looking around, there's nothing here that is producing fear. It's my brain, it's my mind. So I can match my mind to my environment of the peace, of that tranquility, and then my experience, I don't have to predict or I don't have to think about. It's just going to match that energy pattern. It's going to match that energy field that I built. But because I took the fear out of that energy field, now I can experience my perceptual field opening to whereas it wouldn't before because of that fear that I was hanging on to in my mind.
Yes. And of course there's fear that is a warning. And so we don't get to just throw out all fear, because fear isn't all bad. We need that warning. If you're walking across a street and somebody goes, honk, honk, you'd better be afraid and jump out of there, you know. And simultaneously, the opposite of fear is like love. And so when we can love our fear, it's like, okay, fear, got it, I got it, okay. Oh, look at the checkbook. No, yes, that was good. It said, be afraid to buy that. And yes, paycheck says, yes, be afraid to buy that, don't buy that. All right, so fear isn't always a bad thing. Fear is a warning, and fear keeps people kind of honest with themselves. Because sometimes if you kind of lying to oneself, oh yeah, I can do that, maybe do that thing that they're not really ready to do, and that they could really hurt themselves because they're not ready to do it. Then they get fear, and the fear can say, no, don't do that yet. You'll get there, but just, wait until you have confidence instead of fear.
Yes. Wait until you have confidence instead of fear, and listening to your being on how you're building that confidence up is important too. So thank you for that. And let's actually dive in a little deeper to this topic of fear. So I've got a great follow-up question for this.
Oh, great.
Let's talk about first contact. Oh goodness, this is one that is really on people's minds, especially as of late. So now, when we've talked about this before, you, the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, our star family, you talk about how this is happening in frequency. It's not happening in the front lawn of the White House like a lot of people might, envision it to be. But perhaps you can talk about, okay, as we're releasing fear collectively, what does first contact start to look like when the energy field of the planet is not fear-based, it's love-based?
Well, for starters, if one looked up in the sky and their world is fear-based, and they saw a ship, they would probably run in terror. But if they were love-based, they would look up and see a starship and go, wow, how cool is that? I wonder if I can go up and visit them. Because it's something that feels like you were meant to do. And people really do have a feeling about, no, I know I'm supposed to do this, or no, I'm really not supposed to do this. And listening to oneself, really trusting oneself, that if the answer is no, don't do it yet, then don't do it yet. That doesn't mean don't do it, it just means don't do it yet. And if it says, yes, this is it, go for it right now while it's still here. It's kind of like, okay, it's just a short little period, can you make it through that doorway? Shoo! So you can just zip right in there and say, yes, I'm here. I promise that I will assist. I have come here to assist. And you've come here to assist. And a lot of people have chosen to take an earth vessel during this now, so that they will have some growing up time, some learning lessons time, some educational time, so that when that now comes, where these new adventures come in, that they don't have to be afraid. They can say, that looks like a starship. Okay. All right, well, that's cool. And just not go anywhere with it, but let it show itself to you. Let yourself become accustomed to something new. It's kind of like all these people that, sequestered in their rooms, Go to your room. That's what I feel like. You humans have messed up. Go to your room. Okay. And the humans have messed up. You know, that's the humans that have done this thing too. It hasn't been the animals. It hasn't, you know, it's been the humans and the humans' toys. They're the ones that have harmed the atmosphere in the manner that it's been harmed, and haven't cleaned up when they needed to clean up. But people are starting to wake up. They're starting to remember something that they always knew, but they forgot. And that something that they always knew, but they forgot, is most likely what they said they were going to do within this incarnation. But they might find themselves preparing for something. Now, I don't know why I took this class. I don't know why I did this. I don't know why I'm doing these things. I just feel like I'm supposed to do these things. I don't understand. But then after you've done enough of them, you start putting them together, you get the whole package.